of you know me, I'm Kiva. I co-host with Ron the Northern Virginia Tech Breakfast, and today Ron is in Austin doing Tech Breakfast in Austin, so I'm just filling the place. Not much to say from me, everything is, the floor is for Alexis. But I would like Andrew to say a few words about the sponsor, and thank you all.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming. Just really quickly, the space is Canvas. We want to thank Callie and Martin for letting us rent this place out for this event. And then lastly, we've got Mad Cab making delicious coffee over there, so big hand to Trevor. If you guys want cappuccinos or anything after, they'll still be making coffee. And then lastly, NAV helped sponsor the Food, which is a creative design agency in DC. So that's about it. Thanks for coming.
So thank you all. You all don't need introduction to Alexis. I'm going to let Alexis start talking. After that, the book signing will be here. So we're going to set up a table here. So get your book signed and talk to Alexis.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
What's up? I'm not going to lie. It was a little hard getting this morning. We were at College Park last night. I don't know if you heard, but apparently the Terps know a thing or two about late nights and drinking. And we definitely closed down an establishment. I don't know where Brian is, but I think we managed to get out of there at 3 o'clock. But I am so convinced that some amazing stuff is coming out of CP. I don't know if you've heard of Startup Shell, but I'm wandering around this space. It used to be, I think, a closet in some random ass building that a bunch of students have taken over, like straight up pirates, and turned into a maker space, into a hacker space, and it's growing. They're knocking down walls. They're growing this into an amazing, safe space for people to come to learn everything from programming to soldering. And it's just so cool to see happening at CP because I grew up in Columbia, Maryland. All right, so I'm local. I know, don't hold it against me. It was a really boring childhood, but it gave me a lot of opportunities to use technology because that is all we did. And as all of my friends know, instead of going to real parties in high school, we just went to LAN parties. And we would bring, you know what I'm talking about, we had to bring our big ass CRT monitors over people's houses and spend an hour just setting up the router. Like, you know what I'm talking about, it's just ridiculous. So, I'm here today to talk about making the world suck less and just generally how to be awesome without anyone's permission online. Now, I assume most of you are into startups, most of you are doing startups right now. Just show of hands, how many are in some way related to startups or business? Great, okay. Just make sure I wasn't in the wrong of that. Good. The kind of stuff I do at universities is more about why you need to take the time right now to go to places like Startup Shell or start just learning how to code or launch your first Etsy store. I'm trying to sell these university students. I'm just getting shit done right now while they're in school. You guys already believe it. You're already doing it. You're already the role models for all of them who get to work. I mean, look at this. This is a fucking workspace. This is crazy, right? There's Mortal Kombat over there. That's not the censored version. I know the Genesis Super NES, that's the arcade original. Okay, nice. Crazy ass fatalities like Kano pulling out spinal columns. Good old days. Anyway, this is an amazing life we get to live because we are part of the tech community, and right now we're in probably the healthiest part of the U.S. economy. Right? I mean, we are getting our swagger in a way that the rest of the economy is still trying to find. Right, we can't hire enough people. There's capital flowing to startups. We are innovating. We are growing. We are IPOing. It's amazing. And so I hope you guys don't take that responsibility lightly because we also have to make sure that as many of our fellow, whether it's Washingtonians, whether fellow Americans, are aware that all this stuff is going on. Because what we want, we need their talent, right? We're all hiring. Who's looking for a developer right now? Everyone. We're all exactly. Like let's help boost that as much as we can. Also, because I am in the nation's capital, I have to shamelessly promote the Redskins. I'm a season ticket holder. All right, and my father was on the wait list for a very long time, and we got accepted, I think, in high school. And we had nosebleeds up in the 400 somethings. Dan Snyder since turned them into standing room sections because he couldn't make enough money off of just other people's seats. He's shoving as many as possible into standing room. Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me in the back? No. Dang it. All right. I was complaining about Dan Snyder. The thing is, though, in 2006, when Reddit was acquired by Condé Nast, literally the first thing that I did was call up the ticket office and say, upgrade my dad's tickets to the best you have. And so now, if you watch closely on the visitor side, we're at about the 40-yard line, me and my father and two of my best childhood friends heckling whichever opposing team is in town. It's really special. And it's great because when they can actually hear you, like they yell at you, it's wonderful. The best / worst incident of this, and I've never said this publicly, but you know what, why not, was when we got Aaron Hernandez to flip us off. On the Patriots, right? We all know Aaron. What was, in hindsight, though, really nice was we were just grateful he didn't shoot us. we got off pretty easy. But his bride is my witness, seriously. Flipped off back and all right, so I'm not going to talk about the skins, although I think I'm smelling a little bit of a win streak. It's just getting started. But this time last year, things got a little interesting. But anyway, we're going to talk about the internet, which is amazingly powerful. Powerful like this. And this is good, this is a good sign that we are all old gamer nerds because you guys know what this is. It is so depressing when you've got a room full of hundreds of college students who are just like, is that a Wii peripheral or something? Alright, so it's really powerful. Even though this accessory was actually terrible, it's actually not a good way to begin. It's really powerful. I have been able to, thanks to this internet thing, start a few companies that have done a variety of things. They all have cute mascots because I love them, right? Reddit, hipmunk, Red Big. But, and I should, before I go any further, I should also stress, mascots will not save a mediocre product online. Perfect example, right? No matter how great the mascot is, it's not going to save. You have to start with something that's actually good. It's one of the best things about building in tech, right? Is that you have to build something that is fundamentally useful, fundamentally good. You can throw as much advertising as you want at something. In the short term, it might get traffic, but long term, nobody's going to stick around, right? Because there are plenty of other things distracting them. And we all use Facebook now, we all use Twitter right now. How many billboards did it take for you to be like, all right, I'll try Facebook, I'll give it a go, right? These things happen simply because we hear about them and because they're good, because they add value to our lives. And that's a big deal, right? Because it means you can start out trying to solve a pretty small problem, or a big problem, or a simple problem, or this problem, which is lines. Nothing to do with Starbucks, it's the best image of a line I can find in Google research. This is actually the precursor to Reddit. We were trying to solve the problem of lines. When we were UVA students back in 2004, Steve and I wanted to start a company that would solve this problem. Instead of having to wait in line for a Starbucks or whatever you wanted, you would just place the order from your mobile phone. And then when you go to pick it up, you just say, hey, I'm Alexis, they give you your frappuccino and go away. The problem is it was 2004 and there were no smartphones. I mean, there was the Trio. You remember that? Or I could have said something not nice about BlackBerry, but I thought, too soon, don't do it. But those were the smartest phones in the market. There was no app store. And so, it was a different time. We thought we could hack it. We used SMS. We could find a way to connect to these fax machines that were delivering orders in stores from online orders, and we thought, all right, we're going to make this work. And so we had a very fortunate thing happen to us because we heard about a guy named Paul Graham, the original founder of Combinator, giving a talk called How to Start a Startup, and it was in Boston. And we were in UVA, and it was our senior year spring break, okay? So we probably should have been here with every other University of Virginia student, but instead, because we realized that beaches are terrible places to bring your laptop, it was awful, what's the point? We went up to Boston, and so we heard Paul give this talk. It was amazing. We met with him afterward. He said he said he didn't hate what we were working on. He was like, it's not terrible. It might work. And we thought, this is amazing. Like, here's this guy we really respect, likes what we're doing. A few weeks later, he announces the Summer Founders Program. This was the first incarnation of Y Combinator. And in 2005, no one knew what the fuck it was. All right, it was crazy. You're going to give $6,000 per founder to people, basically a grad student stipend, just to live and work in Boston for 3 months and just build stuff. And by the end of those 3 months, have enough to pitch and have enough to hopefully raise seed funding. Now at the time, you have to trust me, this was so weird. It was so different. Everybody used to ask, how is this possible? Why is this the way it is? And no one knew about YC. It's not like today with Dropbox and Airbnb and everything else. Back then, we were just thinking, this is perfect. Some guy's going to give us money to start our company. And I didn't even tell you. It was going to be called My Mobile Menu. Or it's going to be amazing. Like it's going to take over the world. And we were very excited. And so we applied to Y Combinator. We thought we had a good chance, right? Because we already met Paul. And we were like, The student already liked us. He said we weren't terrible. Like, we were going to do a great job. So we go, we get it accepted for an interview. We go up to Boston. This is like now April of 2005. We're about ready to graduate. And we kill it. We just do an amazing job in that interview. I mean, we're there eating on the palm of our hands. Steve and I are so excited. And then that night they call us up and they've rejected us. Which sucked. Yeah, you're all laughing at me, but that's fine. Yeah, they rejected us, and we got really drunk because that's how we just coped with things. And we were on a very long train ride back to Virginia, back to Charlottesville. That's a long Amtrak ride. All right, that was the regional. We weren't even talking about Excella. We were on the regional from Boston to Charlottesville, and somewhere in Connecticut, I got a call from Paul. And he just said, "Listen, we still don't like your idea. Yeah, all right, but we like you guys. And if you're willing to kill this old company." And you've got business cards, you've got an LLC, you've got big dreams. Like, if you're willing to get rid of all this and just solve another problem, solve something on the web, don't solve anything in mobile. It's too early, there are too many barriers. We'll let you in, we'll fund you on whatever that new thing is. And it took us 5 seconds. We got off the train, went right back to Boston, sat with Paul for about an hour, and just talked. And great advisors can do that where office hour sessions are so fruitful. He just said, listen, what problem do you all have every morning? Remember, 2005, there's no social media. Firefox has just added tabbed browsing, which was revolutionary. And so every morning I'd be sitting there with a bunch of tabs open. Steve would be reading Slashdot, and yet neither one of us felt like we had a total grasp of what was new and interesting online. Facebook was still in colleges, but we could see there was this little site called YouTube that seemed to be doing interesting stuff for our video. There were trends. There were sites like Delicious/Popular, which was an interesting byproduct of a site that told everyone, bookmark your stuff, reference material, and we'll see in aggregate what's most popular. Now, it's a different mentality, right? Because you're bookmarking reference material for later. You're bookmarking an AJAX tutorial back then, or, I don't know, just 10 vacation spots in Japan. Like, it's stuff that's not necessarily news, not necessarily stuff that's ephemeral, stuff you want to say. We thought they're onto something, but they're missing it ever so slightly. And this is what we looked like when we first showed up to Y Combinator. This is the founders read this. Before it was a top 50 website, it was two dudes up in Boston, actually technically in a suburb of Boston, ready to start a company. We had just graduated, so I'm rocking my UVA hat. I got my Cafe Press Reddit shirt. It's sad. I actually had the mascot and the name figured out before we even figured out the product. I really don't recommend this, but I was so hell-bent on having this mascot. Steve just kind of acquiesced. Steve also looks the exact same because he was a vampire. Exact same. And one of the things that is afforded to us, mostly thanks to new technologies, you can actually see precisely what I was thinking at the time. That's it. Like, we had no fucking clue what we were doing. There was no, we got into that program with the promise. We told Paul, yes, okay, we'll do it, when he said, you all should build the front page of the internet. Okay. Haven't even graduated from college yet. If you're going to give us money to do that, thank you, sucker. Right? That was the mentality. And every one of us that's gone through Y Combinator, every single person that come to meet, like, the reality is, none of us know what we're doing. We didn't know when we started, we still don't know now. And anyone who comes before you is like, I got it all figured out, really. It's all figured, it's all part of the plan, I got it figured out. Is either a liar or delusional or I'm just lazy, just not even trying very hard, right? The reality is we're all constantly putting ourselves in situations where we don't know what we are doing, and that's okay. None of us really knows. We're all trying to hack it. We're all trying to figure this shit out. And the sooner you can get over that, the sooner you can realize that, the better. Because every one of us is in this state. Every one of us, even I standing before you, thinking about how the hell we were going to do this crazy bus tour, counting way over my head because I had no idea what the hell I was doing, right? We're always in this state. Accept it. Get used to it. It's okay. It's totally fine. Because otherwise, you're never going to launch. Otherwise, you're never going to start. Otherwise, you're never going to embarrass yourself with your first version, which is this. This is the first version of Reddit. Long before 81 million unique visitors a month, it had two. It was me and Steve. This is the first version of the site. And it's ugly, right? It's not going to win any. I know a few of you are shocked, like, good God, that is offensively bad looking. I know, look, it's like Craigslist chic, all right? We just graduated from college. Web design standards were much lower back then, really. I mean, just the standard of design now that's come up in the last 8 years is amazing. I would be ashamed to launch something quite this ugly but I would also have more resources available to make sure it didn't look so bad. And I definitely would not have chosen Verdana, and I'm sorry. that was totally, I still remember the discussion, Steve and I just talking to each other, and it was like, hey, so what kind of font should we use? And I was like, oh, Verdana. Definitely. Looks great. Anyway, you'll notice a few things from this. One, it was the fact that this is 3 weeks of development. At that point, Paul Graham had emailed us and he said, listen, you guys haven't launched yet. That means one of two things. Either you're working too hard and being too worried about making it perfect, or you're incompetent. Now, obviously, we hoped it was just the former, so we launched as soon as we could, right? Minimum viable product. It wasn't a cool buzzword back then, but like at the end of the day, you gotta ship. And it's amazing to see what folks like Eric Ries have done to really build a system around shipping shit, all right? This is what version 0 looks like, all right? This is what it looked like. So you go the first version of any site you go, right? It's going to look like this. Whatever it's any product, anything you were trying to launch, just get over it and just ship it. You'll also notice something else. I have -1 karma, and that is because Steve is a dick. My submission of the Downing Street memo, he downvoted it, and it's not very nice. There's just the two of us in a room, so it's like really, like I know who did that, Steve. Sitting across from me. Anyway, that's first version. And so how do you grow something like this, right? Stickers, all right? This was the primary way that we got the word out about Red in 2005. I mean, of course, we obsessed over feedback emails. You know, Google News alerts, we all have them set up for every one of our brands. Anytime a blog, back then it was like, there's a TypePad blog or a Blogspot blog that's writing about us, right? We go in on the comments and we let them know, good or bad, if they hated us or if they loved us, we let them know we're there, and there's a co-founder who's just thankful that they wrote about us and cared. This was not a fun way to build a brand, because in 2005, social media, again, did not exist, right? And so it was a slog. It took us 6 months before any media of note wrote about us, and the press that did, the first one was The Guardian. The British Guardian was the first fucking media company to actually ever write an article about Red. It was 6 months after we launched. But look, that was just a sign of the times. Today, and in 2010 when we launched Hipmunk, it was amazing because social media existed. And the instant we launched, we had people tweeting about us and Facebooking us and conversations that we could join and be helpful in. And it's amazing because if you do it and you give enough damns, people start, and this is another reason I have mascots, by the way, people start creating things, right? People make art. I mean, we had to sue both of them. But it's a great revenue. This is actually a 14-year-old girl. She's never going to go to college now. Her parents are so in debt. No, we would not do that. That's something the entertainment industry would do. We don't do that. This is amazing, right? These are artists that are far more talented. I mean, if you play your cards right, you can actually get people tattooing shit on themselves. This is Fernando Takai. He lives in Brazil. He's the first human being on Earth to have a red alien tattooed on his body. This happened many, many years ago. I found it on Flickr. There have since been quite a few more. I hope you all get to a point where your brands are being tattooed on people's bodies, and I hope they never regret it. I really do. But I bring this all up to say, all right, how much did all this cost? Right, we're all business people here. About $500. Right, that was the total advertising spend of Reddit to date, and it's sort of a glib statement, right? Because that's how much we spent a lot of money on stickers. But the reality is, this is the internet, right? So many of the platforms we want to create, certainly on the consumer side, can simply grow by the properties of the software themselves, right? We talk about, we have tutorials and we have this sort of startup porn that goes viral every day about how to increase conversion rates and how to bring on referrals and all these different strategies. And what's so cool is you can start with a humble little budget. 2 dudes who just graduated from college in a tiny apartment, and actually have something that one day grows into something, pretty damn big. Now, for us, problems sometimes just got in front of our faces. Now, with Reddit, we were lucky, right? We were on a path that we should not have been down, and someone told us, like, just stop, go pivot. I didn't say pivot because that wasn't the word. They were like, kill your original idea because it sucks, work on something new. It doesn't roll off the tongue like pivot, but I think you guys can agree it's pretty helpful. We confronted a similar kind of issue with Travel Search in 2010. And in particular, co-founder Adam Goldstein was booking flights for his debate team at MIT. And he was pissed off because it was so hard to book flights. He'd have to open so many tabs in his browser to have to keep track of all these different search itineraries. The flights were hard to read. And I'll give you the perfect example of this. This is the last page of search results. This is page 20 for a particular flight. This is literally the worst flight imaginable. The worst flight a human being can take. It's the most expensive. It's got layovers. It's obnoxious. Why is this in the search results? Why did someone make the decision, you know what, we need to show the worst possible flight imaginable, because somewhere, some masochist is like, honey, I found it. Worst honeymoon ever. It's expensive, the flights are going to be terrible. Like, why do we have this? And if you look a little closer, you'll notice, and this is the best part, they say too many pages, it's like they're trolling you. Too many pages? Use the filters to instantly narrow down the list. So they have the technology, but they won't use it because page views are the goal, not user experience. They just want you to page through as many results as possible because they make money on advertisements. They don't want you. They're actually at odds with a good user experience. And the amazing trend that's happened, I know it's ironic for the Reddit guy who's, I know, not got the best designed website, to be talking about the value of UX. But look, the same dude who built Reddit also built hipmunk. And in 2010, on largely a UX play, we took what was thought to be a sort of solved problem of travel search and tried to make it beautiful, tried to make it simple and agony-free. We also had some new sort options. So not only could you sort by price and all the obvious things, but also agony. So we realized most people are willing to pay a few extra dollars to avoid a layover. So why don't we rank that a little higher? Red Eyes should probably be ranked a little lower based on their agony levels. And we made Gantt charts cool. I mean, we didn't invent the Gantt chart, but we simply executed it and had one page of search results instead of 20. And we hid flights no human would want to take. And we're part of a much larger trend that's happening right now, where UX is really having a moment. Obviously a lot of people working on startups. It would be unfair of me to ask who has some amazing UX or design stuff, because I hope we all would think that. But seriously, there are more and more problems being solved right now. They're simply based on this kind of design execution that is really exciting. Even if you look at, I would go so far as to say, look at Airbnb. That's one of the more successful companies out of Y Combinator. Couchsurfing had been around for a while. Sharing beds, renting rooms, Craigslist was a place for all this stuff, right? But they took a concept, and what's so great about it is none of that technology at Airbnb did not exist in 05, in 04, and all that stuff was possible. It's just the timing and people's attitudes towards, staying in a stranger's home, combined with enough people online, all feeling comfortable exchanging, some amount of identity and contact info, and then also combined with the fact that they struggled for a year until they realized what made a difference with an Airbnb listing more than anything else was a beautiful photograph. That was the difference. If they went to people's homes and shot beautiful photographs, their conversion rates dramatically increased. That's what saved the company. It was great pictures, it was great storytelling, and a great perception and a great user experience around something that seemed a little foreign, right? Staying in a random stranger's guest room or home. So all this is to say, I'm very happy about the internet, right? I'm seeing so much happening right now. Like I said, we're in one of the healthiest sectors of the economy right now. Right? That is amazing. That is awesome. We're in such a fortunate place at such a fortunate time, and we're still just seeing where it's headed. And if we can be better than this, if we can be better than the back button, right, we can build something that captures people's attention, that wins the day, that's better than cats, even my cat Karma, who I love. Right? If you can be better than this, you can capture someone's attention. We are all competing with cat photos, with anything we create. It's a reality, right? Whether it's our Kickstarter campaign, whether it's our nonprofit, whether it is our blog, whether it's the selfie we just took, we have limited attention spans online. We all do, and it's getting more and more competitive every minute. But it forces us to bring our A game. It forces us to build software that is amazing. It forces us to build software that people really care about. And what's so cool is we're not the only ones who benefit from this, right? The people using our platforms are. So guys like Zach Anner, who has cerebral palsy, which in a video he posted for a Oprah Winfrey contest to win a television show, he pointed out is the sexiest of the palsies. Now Zach Anner is an amazing comedian. And his point was this: look, there aren't a lot of people with cerebral palsy on TV. There certainly aren't a lot of them hosting shows. I want to host a show. I want to host a travel show. And this guy is hilarious. He built a following of millions of people online, resonating with him and his comedy, and he's been able to make a living out of it. Like, he's using platforms like YouTube and all the social media I just talked about to actually make a living doing the stuff he wants. It's also musicians, like this now 3-year-old musician, Lester Chambers, who was basically robbed by the music industry in the 70s and the 80s. He posted a photo online of his gold record and talked about how he just did not get paid for decades because of bad deals from the industry. And there he is on Kickstarter last year, raising $60,000 for the first album in his life that he actually owned, because he as a musician finally got to connect directly with his fans. Again, these aren't technologists, but these are people using the platforms that we are making to be awesome. And these stories could not have happened even 5 years ago. It would have been really hard. And 10 years ago, forget about it. And that's why I get so excited, because guys like Zach Wienersmith, this is his version of the bread pig. It's kind of like a bread hog, really. But Zach Wiener, this guy was a closed captionist. So he was basically taking the words out of Snoopy's mouth and typing them out for a living. Can you imagine a worse hell? That was his life. And he spent the rest of his time working on a website called Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal. And it was a webcomic. It started out as a simple blog, but over time it's grown. And yes, just so you know, you can do pretty much anything if you yell the right phrase. Like, for science. And what's so cool is, this never goes next to Family Circus in a Sunday comic section, right? No way in hell. But it doesn't have to. He can find an audience of millions and make a living. He lives in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, writing this comic. Yeah, all right. Tuscaloosa love, all right. And so what's so cool about this is, like, this stuff is happening. So the work that you all are doing is part of the industry that is having an amazing impact. If you guys can't tell already, I think the internet's pretty great. It is not a fad, all right? And one of the things you can also help me with, because you are in the nation's capital, is making sure that all of our policymakers realize how really fucking important this is. Because it's not just about Silicon Valley. After SOPA and PIPA, I was so pissed off that every headline I read was Hollywood versus Silicon Valley. And it's like, no. There were millions of people who shut down SOPA and PIPA from all over the country, all over the world, but technically they were American citizens. The point is, it's not just the Valley. My story did not happen because of Silicon Valley. All of your stories do not need Silicon Valley to happen. It's an amazing place. The burritos in the Bay are amazing. It's better, probably the best burritos I had in my life, all right? That's it, all right? It is not a reason, burritos alone are not a reason to take your company there. There is an amazing amount of capital. There are some great advisors, great people. Go visit, please. Take their money and come back. Take their money and keep building a startup community here, because I've seen this happen all over the country. This is my bus from last year. Before this bus, there was another bus. This was like the beta test. We did an 8-day tour through the heartland. It was the Silicon Prairie tour for Internet 2012, because we wanted to make the open internet something everyone was aware of. Every politician needed to know that they had constituents who cared about the open internet, because the internet economy was everywhere. So we shot a documentary. It's freely available, DRM free, of course, called the Silicon Prairie Film, where we met startups. We were doing 5 to 6 stops a day at accelerators, at startups, at universities, all through the heartland, and let them do the talking. We got a bunch of reporters with us. And so all this is to say, please, the people you might have next to you at brunch are the ones, the staffers, the people who actually could be influencing the policy, who need to know how important the internet is and how important it is that we protect it, how important it is we make sure that all links remain equal. Because that's what makes it possible, right? The only way 2 random UVA grads can start a company with 12 grand and some janky computers in a little apartment that can one day get more traffic than CNN or the New York Times is because all links are created equal. And that's a powerful thing I don't want to lose. I really don't. And then my message to millennials, right? We're the generation of selfies. And look. I love selfies. Trust me, there were quite a few selfies taken in College Park last night. I'm not ashamed of that. A little bit. The duck face, I'm going to regret. But these are amazing times. And I know there is so much, whether it's the outrageous student loan debt situation, right? Whether it's the fact that so many jobs that this economy sort of promised us when we got prepared for college aren't there. There are so many reasons to be skeptical and be doubtful, but the message that I especially want to get, the reason we're going to so many universities that I especially want to get across is that we fundamentally understand this technology. If we can all agree the internet is changing the world, those of us who were raised online, right? I was raised online and now it's my boss, but we were raised by this technology. We understand it so fundamentally in a way that it's like someone who was raised in a particular country with a particular culture and a particular language understands it differently from someone who spent their entire life listening to Pimsleur audio tapes. You can work as hard as you want, but you still don't fundamentally quite understand it unless you were fortunate enough to have spent a significant portion of your life in it and on it. And so look, it's disrupting a lot of things, right? We don't know where it's all headed, but the people, as we discover this new frontier, the people who are going to be the ones with the power are the ones who are not just exploring it. They're not just the ones on the frontier. They're not just the Lewis and Clarks. They're the ones who can actually build the frontier underneath our feet, right? It's an amazing, amazing thing that we have no clue where it's all headed, but it makes me excited. And I know millennials have to be a big part of this because really, frankly, there's no other option. So no pressure, guys. And so I got a new bus. This is the new one. This is us in Kansas City a few weeks ago. And so we're going all over with this message. It's a simple one. I don't speak French. But this, I want to make entrepreneurship not something that is only on magazine covers. Like there aren't just entrepreneurs and everyone else, just like there aren't creatives and everyone else, right? We're all doing entrepreneurial shit all the damn time. If you have ideas and do them, whether it's your first Kickstarter, whether it's an Etsy store, whether it's trying to start a movement about a cause you care about, you can be entrepreneurial online all the freaking time. And it's this sort of relentless resourcefulness that I know PG always talks about that makes great entrepreneurs. Well, it also makes great employees. It also makes great activists. It also makes great fill in the blanks. And so I want that message to spread as far and wide as I can. And again, remember, like it or not, the people who have influence anywhere, certainly here in the States, seem to be the ones having success in business and doing things, job creation, right, in the economy. The message that won the day with SOPA PIPA ended up being a business one. The messages that will continue to win the day will be tied to business. And you all, as business leaders, as the people who are the job creators, and the people who are growing and pushing us forward, have, again, no pressure, but a lot of responsibility to make this as awesome as possible. So I hope you will, because I'm bringing this message everywhere. It's 150 stops. That's not even close to the number of books, and those are not to scale. That would be terrifying. I never do that to you. But I want to bring this message as far as I can. And generally speaking, right, we had a time when there were far more barriers to entry for business, for innovation, for creativity, for all that stuff, right? And over time, thanks to the internet, these barriers are falling. We are getting more and more access every day to circumvent them or to get our ideas to the world, right? Permissionless innovation is the reason the internet is so successful, because someone can just get started. There is a stay-at-home dad in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, who started a legitimate competitor to Google a few years ago. It's called DuckDuckGo. Gabe Weinberg was a stay-at-home dad in Valley Forge, PA, who went with a kid on his knee, was like, I'm going to create a viable competitor to one of the most powerful companies the world has ever seen. And he's actually doing it. He raised a ton of money from Union Square Ventures based on the success he had early on. In the wake of everything NSA, I think he's only seen more growth because his searches are not stored anywhere. He's actually building a viable competitor to Google from his home in Valley Forge, PA. With a kid on his knee, he was doing this. Like, those are the stories we need more of. Those are the stories that are totally possible with an open internet, and everyone can do it. And I'll leave you with one thing, because everyone always asks, what's the Reddit strategy? What's the social media strategy? How do you get your first users? This stuff is ever changing, right? At the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is to give lots of damns. Lots of them. Give far more than your competition, because most incumbents ran out of giving damns a long time ago, right? Tony Hsieh has a best-selling book that's basically customer service is good, right? Delivering happiness. What does that say about the state of business when treat customers well is revolutionary, right? When CEOs around the world are like, oh my God, we could have been doing this the whole time, right? The bar is set so incredibly low because most of them stopped giving a damn, and now more than ever, word of mouth spreads faster and further than ever before. And so be as human as you can. Find ways to inject humanity in all the products you create, down to the copy of your website. I want to see Easter eggs in the source code. I want to see error messages that aren't like error, invalid entry, but like actually inject humanity. With hipmunk, if you swap the dates, if you try to depart later than you arrive, we tell you we don't support trips to the past. Yeah. It's nice, it's wishful thinking, you know? We don't tell you error, invalid dates, swap them, right? These moments are the things people talk about, that they tweet about. They remind us that no matter how beautiful the technology is that we use, I mean, these are my little Apple product, right? These devices are beautiful, but they are still soulless, cold robots, which will one day enslave us, okay? I joke, but these are the moments. The subtle things, the little things are the moments, even the 404 page. These are moments to inject humanity that reminds a human being sitting at the end of that cold device that there are humans building the software they're using. There are these things that they can get sort of unreasonably attached to because people actually do care on the other end. It's not just a soulless robot. And I probably have one story that encapsulates all of that stuff. And this is a form, the IRS, we're here in DC. Probably not a very let's say generally speaking, not a well-regarded organization. Not a lot of people love the IRS. There are not a lot of IRS t-shirts. No one gets excited about IRS swag, right? Also, if I'm going to get audited, I just want to be clear, love the IRS. I always love the IRS. But here's something really special. I want to show you what this says, so I'll read it for you. It says, we have reviewed your correspondence regarding the penalties that were charged to your account, and based on your explanation that, quote, the adult brain turns to jello those first few months raising a baby, unquote, we've decided to remove all penalty charges. A total of $2,522 in penalty charges have been removed. So the rest of this is just awful form letter IRS stuff. But this is proof. There is a human being inside of the IRS who had enough freedom in his or her IRS, in that company, in that organization, to not only make this difference, to not only decide I'm going to refund this $2,500, but I'm also going to put this quote in there and inject a little bit of humanity, right? And actually make a connection with another human being. Now this was amazing. And it's amazing that it happened to IRS of all places, but what's so amazing about it was this story 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly before that, maybe would have been a really good Thanksgiving story, right? That everyone in the family would have come over, maybe Christmas, everyone's talking, oh, you should have heard what happened at IRS, it was so great, blah, blah. Maybe some coworkers hear it. Why do I have this image? It's not because I know this person, it's because it's front page on, I think it was our Pics or our Funny, I can't remember the subreddit. It went viral, right? This story, this photo was taken, it was uploaded to Facebook, and it went everywhere because people saw this and thought, holy shit, this is amazing. Now let's think about the scale now, the effect that has had. The water cooler has gotten really, really big. The Thanksgiving dinner table has gotten really, really big. And these stories can now travel faster and further than ever before. And so let's think about this. This one person made a $2,500 decision, injected a sentence of humanity. And now this has done more for your all's perception of the IRS than a multi-million-dollar ad campaign ever would have. Right? Like imagine the buses being covered. IRS loves you. See you in April. Like no one would have. No, it wouldn't have done shit. And you could have spent millions on that. And instead, one person had the freedom inside of the IRS to do right by a user or to do right by a taxpayer and to inject a little bit of humanity. And look what a difference it made. So all I say to you is, and this is a challenge, if the IRS can do it, why can't you? Thank you.
So let's open the floor for some questions.
So I started a healthcare IT company up in Soho, so I'm like a block away from Zocdoc. And I watched the
Small Empires.
Yeah, I watched the Small Empires episode. One thing that you didn't talk about here, or in that actually, sort of the relationship between openness on the internet and healthcare information, private health,
Yes.
protected health information.
Okay. What would you like me to talk about? I mean, because
I'm curious, do you think that, to me, like right now we're building an application online, the web app, and personally, like it does concern me pretty greatly that all of our health information is going to be out there, and so that kind of, that conflict between openness and that information is kind of concerning.
there is, yeah, and let me be clear, when I say open internet, I'm still advocating for privacy, digital privacy. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. Open in the sense that it is open to anyone who wants to go create on it. It is a level playing field. We have a world of, whether you call it net neutrality or, like I said, all things being equal, where someone can simply start and go. Like they don't need permission to innovate. If you have a site, it's as easily accessible as any other URL on the internet. In fact, privacy is more important than ever right now because I think in the wake of everything we've learned about the NSA, we need to make it very clear where our rights to privacy stand, because I personally, and I think more and more Americans are showing that offline privacy matters to us, right? If you want to get into our home, if you want to get into our mail, get a warrant, the same rules should apply to our online privacy. If you want to get into our digital home, or a digital store, into our digital mail, you should get a warrant. So all this is to say about healthcare. I think and you should have seen, actually, ZocDoc was very, very particular about it. We had to tell them specifically where we wanted to shoot in the office and when, just so they can make sure there was nothing patient-related anywhere on anyone's screens, because they have to be so careful with personal and private health. So I mean, by advocating for the open internet, I'm not advocating for everyone's private health stuff to be public, but the reality is, yes, there's the difference. It's a lot easier to talk about getting into a space like, helping people share cat photos or searching for travel, because we don't have to be responsible for some of the most important and private data in people's lives. It's still, I think it's absolutely doable. I think ZocDoc's done an amazing job, and they're, looking forward, they are hoping to be the thing that people go to, or at least get notified by, when it's time for them to get their cleaning, or when it's time for them to get a colonoscopy. It saves lives, seriously. That relationship is one that we all sort of wish software were like. We wish there was something just automatically telling us really you should go to the doctor now, or at least most of us do, right? We want to be healthy, and it needs to be balanced with the knowledge that we also know that the fact that I just had surgery last week, I didn't have surgery last week, but or whatever I'm dealing with is also not going to be accessible. But that it's a risk, unfortunately, in the industry, right? We have some of the most secure organizations in the world that can't keep all their data safe. So it's a challenge, but I think it's one more and more people are getting comfortable with, especially as we record more and more of our lives. What's the meme right now about life tracking? Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh. Everyone's into when you're tracking
Quantitative self.
Yes, quantitative self. Thank you. You're seeing that trend, and I think with that is going to come more and more people who are just like, yeah, it's totally cool. That is going to make your job easier of building this thing, but at the same time, you have to be, obviously, as you know, damn certain that you're building in the safeguards to protect personal and private data, especially with that.
Can you please stand up and ask the question so others can hear you?
Okay, oh, sorry.
Is it me? What would you have done differently with Reddit as a startup, in hindsight?
Oh my goodness, there's a lot of stuff. Steve and I, like I said, we did not know what we were doing. We would have made sure, we only raised $82,000, and our seed round was $70,000, right? Seed rounds today are like $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million maybe. We raised 70 grand, and we were thrilled because we knew we could live on that for a year and a half, because we didn't pay ourselves a salary. We didn't we also didn't think we didn't think about, oh right, that would be money to let us pay other people's salaries so we could hire people. I think a lot of the best lessons from Reddit that we applied to hipmunk were around really fundamental stuff that we got wrong simply because it was 2005 and there was no core thread, there was no Hacker News thread, there was no Stack Exchange. The intelligence, the knowledge level that is out there online is so much better. Now you all are not going to make 90% of the stupid mistakes we did, but a lot of them were around really fundamental stuff. And the other thing, the best thing about hipmunk, certainly according to Steve, is that we've finally launched something that from day one had a business model. And we're finding it. I'm on the board now at Reddit, and I think Reddit Gold is going to be, so far it's actually, the last couple weeks have been amazing. I think it could be a way to show monetization of a major social media platform without advertising. By the way, that's a long play, right? To be able to launch on day one and actually have a way to make money was huge. And so I know it seems really self-evident to start a company with a business model, but it was not to us. And it's a much harder road if you decide that.
Yeah, would you just briefly address the recent controversy about the editorial changes at Reddit affecting
our
Mona
politics.
Jones and,
Yes.
and Breitbart?
Okay, so, we have, the Reddit network has about 5,000, a little more than 5,000 active subreddits, 5,000 communities, one of which is our politics. Now, when we started, we only had one subreddit. We slowly grew out to 10, and then 15. It took us a while because building a subreddit takes, it's a ton of you have to convince people to submit a bunch of links and vote on them and comment. It's not as simple as just rolling a WordPress blog. So all that's to say, it took us a while to grow them. Our politics was an obvious one because people on the internet like talking about politics. Because it was one of the first, it grew really quickly. It has grown to become one of the most active and largest subreddits in the network. All the people who moderate them are these volunteers. It's like someone who creates a Tumblr blog or creates a WordPress blog, like these are just people who are just doing the thing. The downside is, because of how the front page used to work, our politics still has a tremendous amount of clout. And so when these moderators decide, hey, we don't want links from blah 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 anymore, normally it would be like any WordPress blog or any Tumblr blog saying, hey, I'm not going to bother posting links to blah 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 anymore. And people would be like, who cares, whatever. But because of all the clout that our politics still has, it has this pretty significant ripple effect. And in the short term, there's no immediate solution. What I hope will happen is what happened to our marijuana, which was a community, a great community of people who love marijuana. Shocker. And a few years ago, the moderators made some really bad decisions. They were like, we don't want, I think one of them kind of went crazy, and everyone in the community was like, whoa, like, dude, chill. Like, we don't need this, man. We're gonna go create a new subreddit. And they created Our Trees, which is an amazing subreddit. You guys should all subscribe to it. And Our Trees is now the largest, I think it's the largest community of cannabis enthusiasts online. So what happened there was what I hope will happen with our politics. If Our Trees is now orders of magnitude larger than our marijuana was because the moderators made some really bad decisions. If enough people feel like our politics has made really bad decisions, our real politics will take off, or our politics FTW will take off. Or like, and it's just, the challenge is, from a UX standpoint, the onboarding experience at Reddit probably should look more like Tumblr or Twitter, where you sign up and then you don't see content immediately. You just sign up and then they say, what are you into? Oh, you're into the Redskins, subscribe to this subreddit. You're into politics, subscribe here. You're into this particular type of politics, subscribe here. You're into Islam, subscribe here. You're into makeup addiction, subscribe here. Like, all these subreddits exist. We don't do a good job getting them in front of users. So all that's to say that the marketplace is really inefficient. And so as a result, our politics has more clout than it should. And so if we get it right, it's going to frankly be a UX thing, because we're going to make it more obvious to all the people who think our politics moderators are doing a bad job to get to better and other subreddits, just like our marijuana to our trees.
So as an investor yourself,
Yes.
Perhaps you could shed some light into what attributes that you look for from a founder, from a startup, as to whether or not that is a fundable opportunity. Is it a business model? Is it user interface? Is it, shed some light?
Sure. So I've been investing as an angel investor since 2006 when we sold Reddit, and I still don't know if I totally have it figured out, but I'm investing early stage, so it's companies that probably have a few co-founders, or have at least have a co-founder or two, might have an employee. They're just starting to get traction, right? They're starting to get growth either in revenue, hopefully, or at least users. Hopefully it's both. But they're basically seeing week over week growth. It's not just, hey, we grew 3% every week. It's we grew 3% last week, 6% this week, or I guess more data than that. But like a few weeks, a month or so, it's the classic, like, I'm going to the right chart. Now, usually that data set is only a month or two, because startup founders aren't dumb. Like, they frame it, like, they're not misleading anyone, but they frame it to show the maximum hockey stick, right? But they want growth at the end of the day. They're investors, including myself. And then that's a sign that the team is onto something and can solve problems and actually build stuff and like deal with adapting to things that won't work. Because most of your life as a founder is just sorting through a lot of advice, most of which is not going to be helpful, a lot of feedback, most of which is not going to be helpful, and still trying to build a product that's going to be great. And you have to be, to some extent, tenacious. And so it's a bet on the founders. Like, that's the best data we have. It's still so early that it really is just, do I believe this founder? Do I believe she's going to take over the world and I'm going to miss out on an opportunity? And it's almost like, you don't want to be scared by them. Like, don't like threaten anyone's life or anything, but you want to be a little scared. Like, and my favorite little tidbit, this one's been circling around the internet, and it's not mine, but when it comes to looking for money, the best approach is, how does it go? If you ask for money, you're going to get advice. But if you ask for advice, you'll get money. And that's not guaranteed, of course, but it's an interesting approach because, right, it's if you come to an investor asking for money, you know, he or she's going to sort of put on the top hat and the monocle and be like, hold on, let me take a look at your business model and your company and all that. But if you come asking for advice, the guard is sort of down, and you're more likely to win them over for funding. So please take that. But a lot of it really is intangibles. A lot of it really is stuff that just comes down to gut and a hunch and a bet on the business being big enough and all this. But there aren't a lot of spreadsheet calculations. It's a lot of shooting from the hip. And that's one of the other big things too. As you guys look at the DC tech scene, one of the best things that can start to happen to a startup community is as people get successful, as they exit, again, these are recent founders who then get some cash money. As they become angel investors, it's such a boon to the ecosystem because people know them, they trust them, they respect them because they just did it. And it really starts to pay huge dividends. I mean, you do it not just because it is sort of good startup karma and it's good for the community, and maybe you'll make some money, you probably won't. But you do it because you get to be part of this much bigger ecosystem. And that's, I think DC is in a much better place already because this is not like Lincoln, Nebraska is doing some amazing stuff, but they're definitely starting from a very different place in terms of startups and angel investor capital. So it's a huge head start that you guys already have here.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said, I think the point you just made about, you know, talking to investors, a lot of them say that same comment. I want to feel like I'm going to miss out on something, and I think that you know, to sort of double down on that, I think that's a cool point. You talked today and in some of your other videos about inserting humanity and sort of inserting love into your products and your marketing and everything you do. What's kind of, beyond that, what kind of advice do you give to the companies you advise to sort of implement that?
Well, on a practical level, so how do you inject all that love into your software, right? On a practical level, you can do these kind of inventories of your site. Like you just have everyone in the company with a shared Google Doc or whatever your preference is. Really, like you could take all of the copy on the site, throw that thing into a spreadsheet, and basically have a column of what it looks like now and what it should look like afterwards, and just everyone hack at it. Everyone start taking every error message, every line of copy. I mean, there's like extensive testing you can do on things like, you know, the first copy one sees on that landing page, right? You can do A/B testing on that and see the conversion, and you can optimize the hell out of that because there's enough startup porn out there about the things you do there. But I mean, like, you can go through every fucking line of text on the site, right? One of my other favorite approaches is something that they did at Wufoo, which is they make form software, really boring, awful, just lame software, and they've managed to create an amazing culture there, an amazing community around people who love their form building software because of thank you notes. And every Friday they have this, it's the best team building exercise ever. It's way better than trust falls. They get everyone in the office, from the CEO to the newest intern, and they write thank you notes to all of their paying customers, handwritten. And again, water cooler got really big. So you go online and you run searches for this, and you will routinely find people taking selfies with thank you notes from Wufoo, from form building software. And people talk so effusively about some really boring software. It doesn't even have a mascot because they want to show. They technically have a little dinosaur. They have a T-Rex, but it's not really. Just because they're willing to show, and again, it starts with founders, right? If you see the founder of the company there on a Friday evening writing a handwritten thank you note, and you're the newest intern, you automatically understand what kind of company it is. And the way you approach everything you do reflects that. And so it's finding ways to just overtly show this stuff and do kind of this stuff. PG calls it doing things that don't scale, but just more generally, finding excuses, especially early on, to just look for those absurd things that you can do that just seem a little too human, a little too like great because no one else is doing it, and then doing it, and then making sure everyone in the company is a part of it.
Let's take one last question.
Also,
Go for it.
So I got a question here that I think people would be interested in, but it also has to do with the site that I launched last week too.
What's it called?
It's called Volume 48.
Okay.
It's the purpose is to aggregate the most influential books in the lives of the most influential people. And as someone who's super successful and very influential, I'm wondering if like what are the books that, as also as an author, what are the books that have been the most influential in your life?
Oh yeah, okay. I actually I was just talking about this. Let me put our teacher back up there. There we go. Got this. We got a game. It's gonna be fun. Okay, books. Masters of Doom, which is the founding story of id Software, which is the company that invented the first-person shooter genre. I played a lot of video games growing up. That was a book that Steve Huffman lent me in college that made me just convinced I wanted to start a video game company with him. We didn't do a video game company, but we did start a company together. And that was, even if you don't even like gaming, it's an amazing book because you're just reading. They didn't do it. There was no VC capital. Like they were inventing a genre. Like that's some just amazing world-changing stuff. And they were just some dudes hanging out eating pizza and drinking Coke and like building. And it was so liberating for them because they got to work on the stuff they wanted to work on. And just that concept implanted in the head of a college student was world-changing for me because I didn't think people could actually live lives where they wake up every morning getting to work on stuff they actually wanted to work on. I mean, I saw the work my mom had to do. I saw the work that my dad had as a travel agent, which is not an enviable industry to be in. He's still in it though. Made it a little awkward when I told him about hipmunk, but still, he has his own demo. Seniors and like people taking their first cruise, and he's making it work. I'm not taking over that business, but the point is, Masters of Doom was a huge one. I really like The Lorax by Dr. Seuss, really good book. There's another one called Drive that really helps me understand motivation. And not like, let's do motivational speaking, but like really what motivates people to do great stuff. And then, I mean, Paul Graham essays obviously are good and they're free reads. But those, I'd say, really, Masters of Doom was one that really affected me. Ender's Game was the book that got me interested in reading. That was back in high school. And I read it to impress a girl who wasn't even impressed and didn't go out with me. But I developed a love of reading, which ended up being much more valuable. So I appreciate her for that. But yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is, and I think you hear from, and I think you're on the right track, tons of people, all the people I admire always talk about stuff that they're constantly reading and consuming. The only caveat, the asterisk I'll put on that is read as much shit as you want. Please read, get stimulated, get exposed to new ideas, but don't stop just thinking about stuff. Don't just put the book down and be like, that feels great. I'm gonna read another one. Like, okay, read another one, but like, do something about it. Don't just get caught up in like the idea of entrepreneurship. Don't just get, entrepreneurship. There's so many great ways to hate on that, but like, get stimulated by this stuff and then get out there and actually do it.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you all. Please give a big hand to Alexis. Thank you. And one more big hand for all the sponsors, Canvas and... So Alex is going to sign the book. He's going to sit there. So please line up. And he has a hard stop at 10 o'clock. So thank you.